Hey guys, happy Thursday. Welcome to tea time. I hope you guys have your teas or your coffee or anything else that you like to drink or not drink. But I hope you guys are doing well. And yeah, just welcome. So again, I hope you guys are doing well and happy Thursday. Hey Lucy. Waving. Yeah, so I wanted to talk today about my trip to India. So I've been doing again like these polls of what would you like to hear during my tea time Thursdays. And for this one I had trip to India or my experience running half a marathon. And everybody voted trip to India. So hey Esley, I hope you're doing well. Welcome. So I wanted to share my experience. And something that I've been learning or realizing lately, like talking to people and just conversating with them, is that kind of like the same thing that I had going on with my Cancun talk, or this post that I had of like what goes on behind the scenes, where people share how they wouldn't be able to travel by themselves or go off to another country the way that it looks like I do. And because they're too anxious or they're too nervous or there's so much fear. And when they share that, I'm like, hold on, like I have the same exact thing going on, but I try to be aware of it so it doesn't stop me, and there's work that goes behind it so I can do it, if that makes sense. Hey Carla. So I'm excited to be doing this tea time about India because it's the same kind of experience where through the pictures, through social media, it looks like it was a great time, which it was, but at the same time, there was a lot going on behind the scenes of things just not working out. Again, another night of crying, calling my best friend, saying, what the fuck? So yeah, so my trip to India, like I went to India this December, when was it? 2 years ago this year, so 2019. Right before the pandemic hit, actually. So my intention to go to India was actually because I wanted to receive or go to this course to do a teacher training meditation course. Did I say that right? And at the time I actually was doing, I was guiding meditation every Saturday, and I had just created a couple months prior this club called the Vibrant Souls in Hanoi in Vietnam, where I was guiding meditations on the weekends and I was doing book club sessions every other week. And I wanted to just deepen my practice and kind of get more tools under my belt to guide other people. So, hey Valeria. And so I started doing research, and some came up in Vietnam, but then more came up in India. And I never had the idea to go to India, even though I was over there. So it popped up and it looked really cheap, cheaper than some in Vietnam. And I was doing research on like the airplanes and stuff like that, and I guess they had just come out with a direct flight from Vietnam to India. And I took that as a sign of, okay, let's just go, like fuck it. And I did, like I booked this meditation teacher course and I booked my flight. And yeah, I ended up going during my Christmas break from the school that I was working at. And again, like I landed and everything was supposed to be taken care of because I was going for a course. So the course had planned, the people organizing this class, they were gonna pick me up, they were gonna provide food, I had room and board, just like everything. So I didn't do any research because I was like, why not, right? It's Valeria, there you go. Thank you for that clarification. And yeah, so the moment I arrived, actually, nobody picked me up. So, hey Stephanie. So yeah, the moment that I landed in India, nobody picked me up and nobody was giving me a call. My calls were not being answered. And I landed really late, around, I don't even remember exactly what time, but it was really late and it was dark already. And I remember leaving the airport, like going out of it, and I had no service. So I was freaking out. and the only way that I can get service is if I was super close to the airport, because the airport had service, but only if you were inside the Wi-Fi. And just blowing up the phone of the school, like, what's going on? Like, are you gonna pick me up? Like, what's the plan? And they actually had a telephone booth outside, and this older guy, so sweet, because they charged to use the phone, and he let me just use it for free, which was super, super sweet. And I waited, and again, these feelings of fear and being anxious and like, what am I gonna do? Am I just gonna be here at the airport? What's my next plan? Like, I didn't do research. And the guy actually ended up messaging me back saying, the car broke down. Can you figure out a place to stay? We'll pick you up. Send me the address. And again, like, I freaked out. Like, what? In a new country, don't know the language, don't know how to get around, didn't do any research. Like, what do I do, right? And the same guy that helped me with the booth told me about this area, like this downtown where like there are a lot of hotels, and he told me where to go to get a taxi cab. So I ended up doing that, and to be honest with you guys, like, I was a little sketched out and a little nervous because all the cars looked like not just regular cars, but also cars from a junkyard, and totally judging already, right? Because here in the States, like, you know when it's an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi, like, there's a sign, it's a good car, like, all this stuff. And right off the bat, I felt like, oh shit, like, should I go in the car? Should I not? Like, what's the deal? But I had to get to the hotel, and apparently it's a place to get a taxi right outside the airport. So yeah, I ended up getting a taxi, and actually before that, like, I went back to the airport to find out what hotel or what place the guy was talking about. So I ended up telling the taxi driver, to take me to a Marriott, or yeah, like the area. And right off the bat, the dude was super, I want to say, aggressive, or super like this hardcore demeanor type of persona. So again, right, like, totally not used to that, and was totally taken back. And on the ride to the place, he actually was trying to convince me not to go to where I wanted to go. And again, it was in this place of like being aggressive and telling me that he was going to take me somewhere else. And again, being nervous, being by myself, and it's so late, like, this other part of me that's super, could be pretty bitchy, I guess, or just, I didn't even know what exactly to call it, came out and was like, no, like, you fucking drop me off where I want to be dropped off. Maybe I didn't say the F word, but I just told him, like, no, like, drop me off here now, or, you know. And he did. He ended up just dropping me off at the place, and as soon as I got to the place, like, it was booked, so I had to go to another hotel, and then that place was booked. So then I went to another hotel, and at this time it was maybe like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and as soon as I got to the hotel, I just started to bawl, because, again, already landing in a different country, and it wasn't going my way, and experiencing that interaction with the taxi driver was also nerve-wracking, and I could feel my fears, or just being super anxious about it, and being in that, like, space of what do I do, you know? So again, it's all so new, and being alone, it is a little scarier. And so yeah, like, I went to the hotel room, and I started to just bawl, and I ended up texting the guy that I was there, and he said, hey, like, be ready in 2 hours, we're gonna pick you up. And I was just like, seriously, like, 2 hours? Okay, fuck it. So they picked me up 2 hours later, and I landed in Delhi, and we went to Rishikesh. So that was like another maybe 6 to 8 hour drive, and the taxi driver was a little bit nicer, but still, after that experience, I felt like I had to have my guard up. So another experience from that drive, like that 8 hour drive, was we went to a cafe shop, and I remember being in this shop in the middle of nowhere, it seemed like, and there was only one other woman in the cafe shop, and she was all wrapped, like not showing her face or skin, and I'm over here wearing shorts and a long sleeve shirt, and everybody else were like, they were all guys. So the same thing again, like the fear, the being anxious, and just really having my guard up, and just being aware of like my surroundings and being aware of like how I was feeling in the moment. So yeah, like I got to the place, the school, and I got super excited because I officially was there and I'm officially doing the certificate, and like I'm excited to learn and be in this space with like other people who are in the same space. And like within the 2 days that I was there, I felt totally off being there, and it just felt like it wasn't for me. There was like some other stuff that went on in my thought process, but I just had this gut feeling like this is not for me and I don't want to be here. And it was again that overwhelming feeling of, man, like nothing is working out, like what the fuck. And the first day that I was there, like I walked around with other students, and we kept seeing a lot of signs that said, in India, you surrender, because shit just never works out the way you want to in India. And I kept remembering that, like, okay, just surrender. And I remember reaching out to a couple of my friends, like, hey, like, I'm feeling this way, like, I don't know what to do. And I went to my gut feeling and what I felt. And I felt uncomfortable, like, I felt that I didn't want to be there, and I really wanted to walk away. And yet my mind was giving me all these reasons why I needed to stay. So yeah, like I went for a walk and I connected with myself and these feelings, and ended up leaving and finding a hostel to stay at. And yeah, like I left. Totally left. Hey, girl. So I left and I found this hostel. And the first day I was like, okay, like what do I do now? Like I have a whole week here. That didn't work out. And there was some kind of excitement too, because it felt like it was an open space, or an open week of I can do whatever I want. Like I'm in India, like fuck yeah. I never thought I'd be here. So what can I do with it? Like make the most out of it. And I went to this coffee shop restaurant, I think it was like that night, and there was a picture of a guru named Maharishi. And prior to that, like I had listened to Ram Dass, which I mentioned him a lot in my social media accounts, and he's a spiritual leader, and I had listened to him before and his stories, and a lot of stuff resonated. And I at that point, like I didn't read too many of his books. Actually, I don't think I read any of his books yet. Just maybe skim through them, but listened to a lot of his talks and his meditations. And Maharishi is actually his guru, and Ram Dass had gone to India and hung out with him, and there's like this whole other story if you guys are interested with that experience of Ram Dass and being in India. So let me know if you want to know more about that. But yeah, so I saw the picture and I knew who he was. And I wasn't as invested as, like I just wasn't as invested to know about him prior. And as soon as I saw the picture, like I just started to cry. And there were just these tears, like I couldn't even control them. And I remember telling the owner, like, I'm so sorry, I don't know why I'm crying. And he was like, darling, like, it's okay, they're tears of joy. And that made me feel a little bit better. And he was so affirming and he was so loving, and he actually gave me a piece of paper of his ashram and how to get there, and I took that as a sign. And he's like, hey, like you have to go here, like it's X amount of hours away, like figure it out, you can do this and this and this to get there. And again, like I took it as a sign, like okay, I'm gonna surrender, let's go and see, let's just go, right? So I went back to the hostel, and the two owners of the hostel, they were so nice and they were so kind. And I met another traveler, but before I get to that part really quick, I was talking to these two owners about how to get to the ashram. And as I'm explaining to them what the owner of the restaurant said, they were telling me more about how to get there and how it's a long drive. and everything. And then this other traveler comes into our conversation, and he had actually been wanting to go to the ashram as well, and we totally clicked. And so something that I want to mention with this too is having this experience with the two owners of the hostel, and then the experience that I had meeting and being with this other traveler. His name is Rathan. And so all of them, the three of those, can't even speak. The three men are Indians. They were born there, they live there. And prior to that, I had gained this perspective of Indian men being rude and being rough and being mean and having to have my back guarded with them specifically. And meeting them totally tore down all of these perspectives and these feelings that I had, or these judgments as well that I had towards them, which I think it's a blessing. It's always a blessing when your perspective just breaks and then it, you gain a horizon of it in a way, if that makes sense. So yeah, I met Rathan, so shout out to Rathan, much love. And yeah, we totally clicked. And he had been wanting to go to the ashram as well, and he was from northern India, and he was from down south and we were up north. So he had mentioned how he had been wanting to go, but during the time was super cold, so he didn't want to go. And we were just sharing, right? Why we wanted to go and who was Maharishi, and just having this conversation. And I told him, I'm gonna go either way, so you're more than welcome to come. And again, we just clicked, and it seemed like right off the bat we trusted each other, and it felt as if we knew each other for such a long time. So yeah, so we ended up actually going, and it's so interesting because I mentioned something along the lines of you can guide us there with your knowledge of the language, of how to get around, of you, of course, knowing the country, and I'll get us there through my energy of mind over body. It's fucking cold, but we can totally do it. And we did. We ended up renting a private car and took the drive up there, and we went to again, the ashram, Maharaji's ashram, and it was an incredible experience for sure. And being there actually guided me, or I felt a lot of what I'm doing now with my intention of being love and sharing love and loving everybody. And so the ashram, right, is where Maharaji lived most of the time, and that's where Ram Dass had come and had lived for a little bit as well. And again, I didn't follow Maharaji too much, but when I was there, I felt this massive abundance feeling of just love. And Maharaji would always be on this wooden pallet, and that's where he would just chill with his blanket. And I was so gravitated to that. And the whole time that I was there and just with my hand on it, and again, just crying so much. I couldn't even control it. Boogers were coming out of my nose. Just, and at the time, I thought that the only time we would cry is if we were in pain, or if there was something wrong, or if we were sad or frustrated. And it didn't match up with my perspective of why I was crying, because I wasn't in pain, I wasn't sad, I wasn't frustrated, yet I'm over here crying my eyes out. And then I realized, it's just, I'm in this presence of love, and I can feel it so deeply, and I'm crying out of devotion, out of that presence. And it just felt good. It felt nice, if that makes sense. So, hey guys, if you guys have any questions, let me know about this trip. let me take a space for you guys to answer or have any comments. Not answer, ask anything, or if you guys have comments. So, story time. Yeah, so I went to this ashram, and again, it was that space of being in that presence, and we were there for a day, and yeah, we were there for a day, and then we came back, and I had to take a couple of, like, a day or two to kind of process what had just happened, because in that time, it felt like my mind was trying to figure out stuff, or it was in that logical, trying to explain certain stuff, certain feelings, or I had certain perspectives of religion, of faith, of how life would, like, should work, like, just so much. Yet my feelings being there kind of broke all of that, and it wasn't matching up, if that makes sense. So again, I was trying to just process, like, what had just happened. And during this trip to India, like, there was more stuff that we did. So Rathan and I connected, and we hung out, and I always say, like, Carla is one of the best travelers that I love to travel with, and second would be Rathan, because before that, we actually didn't hang out before that, so it was so fucking crazy. Like, we met and we were going on a trip together, right? Totally trustworthy of each other to do something like that. And after that, we hung out here and there, and it was so much fun. We were both in that space of being curious about the food, and being in a different little town and exploring it. And like, after that, we went to another place called Ninital. I believe I'm saying it right or wrong. And again, it was just like this place of exploration and having fun. And yeah, we came back to Rishikesh, and again, like, we did our own thing, and then we hung out. And during that time, it was again that feeling of, okay, whatever my perspective is, like, I'm ready to surrender to it, and ready to let go. And during this time, which I think I had already felt it before, because that's one of the reasons why I left to Vietnam. During this time, I had this feeling of, like, nothing matters. And going back to that space of just being in the moment. And by nothing matters, I mean, in the perspective that I had, again, it was having the diploma, having a good career, having a status, being somebody in the world. All of that, of course, was huge right after college, and what am I going to do with my life, and should I go back to school? And when I went to Vietnam, I let go of that a little bit, but it was still in my mind of, like, what am I going to do when I come back? And when I was in that space in India, all of that just fell through. And I still struggle with it a little bit, but actually I go back to those photos, or there's a video that I have of a guy who was dancing, and it's on my social media, and maybe I'll post it again. But there's a guy that I recorded a video of, and he's just dancing, and he's being free, and he's moving to the music, and it's a ceremony that they have every evening. And whenever I'm in that space of a struggle, of, like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, like, all these shoulds, I go back to that video, and it grounds me to that feeling that I had when I was there of, hold on, I don't have to do anything. Whatever I'm doing right now is just alright, you know? So, yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that, but it was that feeling that I go back to from time to time whenever I struggle with that. And it's pretty heavy here in the States, too. It's heavy, of course, in, like, other countries of having your diploma, having a career, your status of who you are, and all this other world things of having that war, like, yeah, like, all of that matters to this culture, and I'm pretty sure it matters to, like, other cultures as well. But at the same time, like, being abroad and being in that space, it's like, oh, hold on, like, it doesn't matter at all. totally doesn't matter. And being back here, it's a little, I forget sometimes. Okay, do you guys have any questions? I feel like I'm gonna totally ramble on. So yeah. So that's my trip to India. What else did I want to share? What else do you guys want to hear about? But yeah, so something actually that I also wanted to share is that this led more to the Vibrant Unknown and to my work, again, what I'm doing now. Because the Vibrant Unknown for me is you step into the unknown of your heart's desires, whatever they may be, and eventually they turn into the Vibrant Unknown. And at first it might be rocky, there might be some turbulence, there might be some doubt, some insecurity, like it might be rough at first, but the more you keep going, the more it becomes vibrant. And again, like going to India, having this expectation, and it all just falling through, I was going into the unknown and it was rocky. Again, like it was turbulent and a lot of second guessing myself like the first couple of days. And I kept following my heart and I kept following my gut feeling of where to go next or what to go next basically. And it turned into a vibrant experience. Like I met Rathan, whom I still keep in touch to today, and he was a vibrant soul. So again, going back to the Vibrant Unknown, like you step into the unknown and you go through these vibrant experiences, you meet vibrant souls, you end up doing things or experiencing things you never even imagined. And the core of the Vibrant Unknown as well is that you also get to know more of your vibrant self, and you start to build this relationship with yourself. And that's what happened. So again, I went into the unknown going with a heart's desire, and it was turbulent at first, it was rocky, and the more I followed my gut and my heart, I ended up meeting a vibrant soul, having this vibrant experience that still guides me today and will continue to guide me with all my work in my life. And I ended up having like these vibrant, again, like other experiences that I just never planned for and never expected to have. And that's a really good reminder for all of us, you know, that we might have an idea or a plan and it might fall through, but at the end of the day, it's working for the highest good of all and way better than we could have imagined. Because if I would have stayed at the meditation retreat, I would have been unhappy, I would have been struggling with it so much, and I would have gotten the certificate, which would have been kind of awesome, but I wouldn't have been aligned as I was doing it. And yeah, leaving, I went with my gut, and I had a whole other experience with it being there. So, and another thing that I want to mention is like steps. Like we take these baby steps and they lead to other steps, you know, and it's just having faith in that one step that we're taking in that moment. And even if we can't see the whole path or we can't see the other steps, like it's all right, at least you're taking the first step that's right in front of you. You know, I think sometimes we can get overwhelmed with seeing the first step and seeing step 20, and we get overwhelmed with like, how are we going to get from here to there? And we start to feel anxious and overwhelmed and like in doubt, and all of that stops us from stepping into our heart's desires. So it's just taking that first baby step. So do you guys have any comments, any questions? So yeah, so that concludes my Tea Time Thursday. Yeah, it's 12:30. So much love, guys. Thank you guys for showing up. I love you guys. So I'm happy to be here. I love these Tea Time Thursdays. Like I said earlier in one of my tea times, sometimes I feel like they're a life coaching session back to myself. I'm my own life coach during these. But yeah, like I hope these videos serve in some way with whatever you're going through or whatever you want to step into. And yeah, so I want to end this with actually a prayer. So recently I listened to a podcast with Gabby Bernstein and Franklin Devon, and it's a really, really good podcast. So I suggest anybody who is either into either of them or not to listen to it, and I can send that to you if you're curious. But, so if you're still watching, I want you guys to take a moment to just close your eyes. So I pray that you have the courage to feel how you feel and to know that you are coming through this. Your suffering is not in vain, and your suffering is a season. And with all seasons, they pass, and a new one is on the way. I speak healing over your life. I speak peace over your life. I speak power over your life. I pray that you would receive this prayer in the depth of your soul, and you would know all will be well. So that's by Devon Franklin. So you guys can open up your eyes, and I'll share that on my social media. So yeah, much love, guys. I hope you guys have a beautiful Thursday.